So the San Diego Comic-Con is upon us, and been lots of reveals, lots of toy reveals, and better channels than mine have been doing the play-by-play of all of that stuff. But something in particular that caught my attention was that NECA is continuing the Universal Monsters figure line. I was dead certain that they were done. I was certain that they were done with the line. They had done the Magnificent Seven plus one, so Dracula, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, the Wolfman, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and then the plus one of the Phantom of the Opera. And I thought they were done with it, and like nothing seemed to come out forever. Then they put out like this one-off, what seemed like a one-off, of the version of the Frankenstein monster from the Bride of Frankenstein, with the chair he was imprisoned in, and just the tweaks to the costume and everything from Bride of Frankenstein. But now at the San Diego Comic Con, they've unveiled the version of the Invisible Man with the housecoat and Ardeth Bay, the version of the Mummy where Imhotep becomes the sort of uncanny simulacrum of a person. um, and Ardeth Bay was actually on my wish list of figures that I wanted. Not so much the other, like the Invisible Man with the housecoat. Um, I mean, I would have bought that if that was the only version of the Invisible Man, but I already had the other one, so it's like, eh. But the Artist Bay Mummy is definitely on my list, and that fills me with a very tiny bit of hope, that maybe NECA will actually branch out into other characters. That's probably not what is going on. What is probably going on is the same thing that they do with all their other licenses, like Halloween and what Gremlins and whatever, Ninja Turtles, which is 99% is just different versions of the same characters. Oh, it's another Michael Myers. Probably they're just milking the same Magnificent Seven and just doing more versions of them. So we can probably expect to see different versions of Dracula and different versions of the Wolfman, and that sort of thing. Creature walks among us, whatever. Probably not branching out into other characters. They also did an unveiling of another version of Nosferatu, where he's wearing the cloak and the pointy hat when he was the carriage driver. So yeah, I suspect what this is them just doing more versions of the same characters, because those are ones that sell, right? The Magnificent Seven sell. But by golly, I would love to see them branch out into other Universal Monsters characters. I mean, I would love to see them branch out into every Universal Monster character, which is a little bit unlikely. So I do have a sort of a short list of the ones that I would love to see them do. We can scratch Ardeth Bay off the list because they're doing him now, so great. Top of the list, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, a 3-pack of Abbott, Costello, and the Glen Strange monster. I could actually even do without the monster. I just want Abbott and Costello, but I figure it'll probably sell better if it's a 3-pack with the monster and it matches the name of the movie because they've got meeting Frankenstein in there. But yeah, I would love to have like Abbott and Costello and the monster meet Frankenstein. As I said, that's like the top of my list. Then there is the Metaluna Mutant from This Island Earth. Super 7 put out an Ultimates figure of the Metaluna Mutant, and it's okay, but I would love to see NECA do it, so it matches with the rest of the NECA figures. But that is, I mean, it's one of the sort of the classic, lower key classic sci-fi monsters of the 50s. And it's Universal's. It's what Universal's got. So let's see the Metaluna Mutant. The Man Who Laughs, Gwynplaine, would be an amazing figure to get. Like that would be the first time this figure has like ever been made. Like any merchandise for The Man Who Laughs. One of the silent era films. They did Phantom, so there's a hope that they could do The Man Who Laughs. And it has cultural significance by virtue of The Man Who Laughs was the inspiration for the Joker. But it would be like it'd just be a great figure to get. Like Gwynplaine, really visually striking. You could do the alternate heads where you'd have like the one where he's got his disfigurement covered, one where he doesn't. He would just look great on the shelf. From Dracula, you can use it as a 2-pack, or you can use it individually. But Renfield, so Dwight Frye's Renfield, and Edward Van Sloan's Van Helsing. And the trick with Van Helsing, so what you do with Van Helsing, is the extra heads are the heads of his other characters. So Dr. Mueller from The Mummy and Dr. Waldman from Frankenstein. That would be fantastic to get just basically an all-purpose Edward Van Sloan figure that you could make those 3 different characters, I think would be primo. Absolutely. And what'd be cool about that is that it adds like a human character. It adds a good guy into the mix. So you have something for the other monsters to play off of as well. So yeah, Edward Van Sloan, Van Helsing ostensibly, but with the heads to make him the other characters. Igor, Son of Frankenstein and Ghost of Frankenstein. Bela Lugosi's other great Universal monster character. I mean, that is like an essential one. Like, come on. Dr. Glendon from the Werewolf of London, I think would be a great one. And that one you could actually do 2 variants of. If the first one sells well enough, then you do the second one. The first one is just him, Werewolf of London. Second version is Werewolf of London with the overcoat and the hat and the scarf for when he goes out to kill. He transforms into this ravenous, uncontrollable werewolf, and he goes out to kill and he puts on his hat and coat. That would be a great figure. In fact, actually, I would almost rather do that figure first. Do the Werewolf of London with the hat and the coat first, and then do like just a plain version of him. Halmar Polzig, the Black Cat. That one is a deep cut on that one. I would very not expect to ever see that one, but Boris Karloff in like the black robes and his like satanic sigils and all that sort of stuff, and just how they make him look in that movie is so striking. It would be an excellent looking figure for the shelf. So yeah, Halmar Polzig, Boris Karloff from the Black Cat. It'd be a good one. And Dracula's daughter. That would be a fantastic figure to get as well. And add another female to the lineup as well, not just the bride, but Dracula's daughter would be a great one. And then we've got Lon Chaney, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Quasimodo. I mean, come on, that's like there's the Phantom, and then there's Hunchback of Notre Dame. I mean, I did put Man Who Laughs higher on the list, but come on, Hunchback of Notre Dame would be like the other most obvious one. However, that said, I would happily accept the Charles Laughton version of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. In fact, why not both? I like, between the 2 versions, I like the scale of the 1923 version with Lon Chaney best, but I love Laughton's portrayal of Quasimodo the best. Charles Laughton was born to play the role of Quasimodo. Like, I didn't even wait for a NECA. I got like the where is he here? Right over there. Yeah, there. The Mego version of him. Because yeah, I just wanted like a Quasimodo action figure. Yeah, like I would take either one. I will take both. Make them both. That's fine. But yeah, either Lon Chaney or Charles Laughton versions of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And that segues into other classic horror characters as well. Because there's more than Universal out there. And at the top of my list, well, I guess it was Charles Laughton Quasimodo, but the next top of my list would be the Frederick March, Dr. Jekyll, and Mr. Hyde. It comes with the heads for and the hands for Dr. Jekyll and for Mr. Hyde. In fact, you could do like a great sequence of heads of the transformation, right? So just like normal Dr. Jekyll, and then Dr. Jekyll like with like the black makeup coming in, and then the actual Mr. Hyde head. I think it would be great. And I mean, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is right up there with the classic horrors. It is right up there with Dracula and Frankenstein. So that would be a pretty obvious one. Legrand, Bela Lugosi from White Zombie, is such a recognizable character of his. Igor is his other great Universal Monsters role, but if I was going to pin it down to another great role, period, it would be Legrand, would be his other one after Dracula. And striking figures, all in black, the goatee, the eyebrow, singular, all that stuff. Got White Zombie mask up there. Yeah, that would be a great one to have. Charles Laughton or Bela Lugosi or both from Island of Lost Souls. But that would be a good 2-pack. Is Dr. Moreau, Charles Laughton's Dr. Moreau, and Bela Lugosi's like Beastman would be a great 2-figure set. John Gray, Boris Karloff from The Body Snatcher, the overcoat, the top hat, the sack, all that stuff, I think would be a great figure as well. Again, that's a bit of a deeper cut. And I mean, honestly, I could just keep going on 1930s, 40s horror characters. That would be great to have action figures of. Um, but I know NECA. This is all pipe dream, anyways. NECA has to think about what will sell, and um, the Body Snatcher, Boris Karloff might sell to a small number of nerds like myself. But I don't know. It might not sell to everybody. But I don't know. I mean, horror geeks are pretty intense. So it might actually sell pretty well. I've seen some weirder figures NECA's done, so why not? Um, Vampira. We've got Elvira and several versions of Elvira that they've shown at the San Diego Comic Con. We need a Vampira figure to match with that. There's the Toonie Terrors one, but I need like an actual. I mean, probably would be the 8-inch clothed figure line, but Vampira, like, come on, I want a Vampira. Um, Silent horrors. The two next most obvious ones, because they've done Phantom, Nosferatu, Professor Burke, and I would like them to do The Hunchback and Man Who Laughs. So the next two most obvious ones would be Cesare from The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and the robot from Metropolis. Those would be the next obvious ones to do. I mean, you could do like Dragolum and John Barrymore, Dr. Jekyll, and Mr. Hyde. But again, those would be like sort of those would be deeper cuts as well. So at least the robot from Metropolis and Cesare from Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Um, some other horror characters, like for a little bit like the 50s. I mean, wide open field for the 50s. Robot monster. How NECA do a robot monster figure. But the Fly would be an obvious one to do. And I don't know how NECA would do this. I would love to see the original version of the Blob. Um, I'm not sure how you would do that. I'm not sure what shape that would take, pun intended. But for for NECA to do a Blob figure, um, I mean, I would even consider buying. It was like a 1980s Blob, like the pink version of the Blob, as opposed to the red version of the Blob. Um, I would consider buying that if it wasn't too like 80s-ish, like it didn't come with like obviously like 80s characters like or bodies being melted in it. But to have a Blob character would be great. Um, and I mean, this is getting into the 80s, which actually would put it more into NECA's wheelhouse. Again, with 80s horror, would be an Audrey too. Um, don't do the Corman version because that's just no, it's not worth doing. But like a full size like $100 action figure of Audrey 2 would be fantastic. I absolutely would buy that. And those are the horror ones that I could see. But if I was gonna be dreaming big, um, there's a lot of like classic Hollywood actors and characters that I would love to see NECA action figures of. Um, Most of them would probably end up being more fit for like the 8-inch clothed line, like Elvira is. But I would want them to be the 7-inch Ultimate line to be compatible with Universal Monsters. Like Fay Ray, just having a Fay Ray action figure, and I mean pick a role, whatever. Could be King Kong, could be Vampire Bat, could be Mystery of the Wax Museum, doesn't matter. Just Fay Ray would be a great figure to have. The Marx Brothers, I would like dead ass instantaneously pre-order a set of Groucho, Chico, and Harpo of the Marx Brothers. Absolutely, no questions asked. Would pre-order. Humphrey Bogart, Casablanca, Cary Grant, Mae West, a Mae West figure, Rhett Butler and Scarlett O'Hara. Like, come on, these would all be great, but very unlikely. Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. I mean, yeah, being RKO nerd and King Kong, I would love to get a Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers set. That is never going to happen. I cannot ever see NECA doing something like that. NECA's wheelhouse is horror and like 80s nostalgia stuff. Never gonna happen. One license I could see them doing, oddly enough, is Wizard of Oz. It's like Judy Garland as Dorothy, Cowardly Lion, Tin Woodsman, Scarecrow, and the Wicked Witch of the West. Um, because Wizard of Oz is like a distinct license of its own, and it has like a rabid fan base that would absolutely buy those figures. So I could totally see them doing like a Wizard of Oz line. Um, but that might be the best I could hope for for like more classic movie characters. Um, I mean, I would again, I would love a Cary Grant action figure. I would love Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. I would love Roy Rogers and Gabby Hayes. I would love um, the Marx Brothers, but yeah, that's just totally pie in the sky dreaming. Pulling back to Universal Monsters, that's my wish list. I would love to see him do every Universal Monster character. That hasn't really been done since Sideshow did it um, a million years ago. But I mean, NECA is NECA, and NECA has to think about what people will buy, and their MO is you pick some popular characters and you just keep doing them over and over and over again, new variations of them. Even to detriment like their Godzilla line, where it was just more Godzillas and no other kaiju. Um, if you want all the Michael Myerses, there you go. So that's what I suspect NECA is going to be doing, is just more versions of the same characters. So we'll see, Creature Walks Among Us eventually. We'll see Dracula in different outfits eventually. Um, we'll see, yeah, we'll see all these different versions of the same Magnificent Seven. And that's fine. Pick and choose whatever you want. But this is my wish list. So NECA, if you're happen to see this, if you're listening in, please, I don't care about credit. I just want these figures made. So just please just go ahead and make them. That's fine by me. I would love to have my Hunchback and have my Gwynplaine and have my Fly and have my Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and just do it. Just do it.